So the case I'm looking at is the Colgate University versus Cook. Colgate University appeals the case from a judgment entered in the United States District Court for the Northern District of New York under Magistrative Judge David N. Hord. The issue was that the private university of Colgate had a men's university ice hockey varsity team but only had a women's club team present on the roster. The plaintiffs, Jennifer Baldwin Cook, Melissa Ethers, Christian Price, Taylor Jacobs, and Julia Wolfe, were either current or former club players at Colgate University and the women's ice hockey team. The athletic department at Colgate sponsors both all varsity sports at the university since they're private, and the men's and women's sports teams. So the difference between the varsity and club is pretty apparent. So men's or just varsity in general, usually tends to have better funding, coaches support, university support, facility support, encouragement and recognition throughout their collegiate experiences, where club is more viewed as a player kind of centered approach. So players coach, they're usually the head, they're usually underfunded a lot more than the varsity programs, and they usually don't get recognition when they compete or achieve awards because they're not viewed as in a competitive mindset. So these were some of the disparities that the women's have been facing for a couple years. The men's had also been looking at it, and they're just kind of saying like, hey, there's a very big discrepancy between here. So it's because they're very informal and comprising the organization, even though the club teams offer the greatest amount of opportunity for students at the intro to intermediate level. So usually they cap more to a bigger crowd. But they still get underfunded more than varsity, which is more catering to the top tier level of athletes that the university can bring in. The policy at Colgate is that any program that wants to be upgraded to a varsity can do so through a preliminary hearing, and it goes up through the bureaucracy and different standards and levels, and then it meets the president, and the president makes the final call and judgment most on these decisions. So that's their formal approach and how they go through and developing a varsity program. Once they go through this bureaucracy and signs off on it and it's good, then they become a varsity program. Colgate's women's ice hockey team has applied, and they have applied for many years for an upgrade in 1979, in 1983, 1986, and 1988 without any success. Every time they applied, they've been turned down, rejected for numerous amount of reasons. Each time that they go through a hearing and a process, they can only do so every 2 years. So as you can see, they've kind of gradually gone and progressed through it, but with no success. Due to the frustration with the university, as the women have throughout, the plaintiffs filed this lawsuit, the Colgate vs. Cook, on April 10th, 1990, alleging that Colgate's failure to provide a comparable ice hockey team to men's and women's, which violated the Title IX. And the Title IX was brought into place a while ago to make sure that women and men had the same opportunities on the field and in the classroom, so there was no basis of sexism. So this was a very big topic, and it's been massive in universities, especially when I first came over here and kind of had no idea about it, and then was explained the process. There has to be an equal amount of opportunity for women and men. There can be no discrepancy between sexes. So for the ice hockey, they were seeing that, well, hey, the men's have got a team, but the women's don't. So that's kind of based in the Title IX here. And so that was their big defense. They also, a few other things that they wanted to bring was the educational duty and the 5th and 14th Amendment to the Constitution, which they felt were violated by the university. Of course, the school denied this, any wrongdoing, stating that it mandates of Title IX should be measured by its overall athletic program, not just sport by sport. So their defense on that and their view was basically that we are cooperating with the Title IX because we have equal number of men's and women's sports on display. So I just say like 8 and 8. They've got 8 men's, 8 women's, but it might not be sport for sport. What they're stating, that women's and men's ice hockey didn't match. So that was their defense. So they have a good point in terms of they're trying to defend themselves, but they also had a good stating point there that that they shouldn't be. The Title IX states that it's sport for sport, as in you need to have an equal number of opportunities. But in saying that, the gray area there is it needs to have equal amount of opportunities, which they were not feeling that they had, since the men and women were not viewed as equal. They also argued that even if it was to pass, the plaintiffs would not be present to compete, as two of them were graduating and the others were going to be seniors who would be graduating that season. So before the rules would even come into place, they would all be graduating, and so it would have no effect on them. So basically, they were petitioning for people that were not going to be there. So they said, well, what's the point in that? The defendants, the plaintiffs, maintained, stating that they can't be mooted, which is what the university was trying to do, saying that their allegations were null void, not able to be used. Stated that through graduation, as they were involved in the case and didn't seem to break any of the moot allegations. So basically, the woman was saying that, even though we're not going to be here and we're graduating, that we should still have this for the next coming generations, and they should be affected. They shouldn't be allowed or denied just based on that they're women, which is what they were trying to say. The court couldn't find an outcome and was moved up to the district court with the instructions to dismiss the action altogether. It was a big case. The argument between Title IX, which is a very grey area because they say that they need to have equal rights for both. But when you look at it, in a way they were given equal rights, but at the same point they weren't given equal rights. So it just depends on which podium you want to kind of sit on and at which end you want to take. It determines your view on it ultimately. I view that, Colgate technically followed the rules. They offered opportunities. But I can see where the women were coming from in terms of that they were denied their opportunity, which would be frustrating if the men were going to be given this right and opportunities, but the women's in the long run were not given it as well, So, that's my verdict.